If you are enjoying this podcast and other podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon Shop. Awesome t-shirts and mugs from your favorite shows so you can tout your podcast pride all while supporting your favorite podcast network. And make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. Shop now at dragonwagonradio.com/shop and get your dragon swag on.
Secret? Is it safe? Welcome back to another episode of The Hell With This. Holiday edition now. Co-starring
First episode of 2019.
Matt Hingstman.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm back.
I feel kind of naked.
I didn't fuck up too bad on the,
on the last two.
One.
The last time we forced you into watching Blade of the Immortal and you made us watch what?
Batteries not included.
That's right.
Yeah.
How could I forget? Asterisk, batteries not included.
Yes, for some reason.
In lowercase.
Oh, it does say that on the manuals, I guess.
Yeah. So what's up?
So, nothing. How's your holiday?
Brief. Still going on. Yeah, they gave us 2 weeks off. So
that's nice. That's a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I forget that people in the entertainment industry don't have like 2 to 3 weeks off. Because if people don't know, in LA, the movie industry more or less shuts down for about 3 weeks. There's nothing going on.
Not even that. It's like the moment Thanksgiving happens, the world stops.
No, not so much. I think
there's like a last gasp, like a little fart before Christmas happens.
Yeah, there's still a lot of shooting. I was shooting up until about the 19th. But I forget, like, I try to meet up with my friends, like, hey, when I go home, like, hey, what are we doing? When are we hanging out? And everyone's like, I have to go to work. I'm like, oh, yeah, shit.
Who are your friends? You need new friends. At the moment that, the moment Hanukkah starts, like, traffic is like a breeze around town, and then everybody leaves for Christmas, and then
my girlfriend's been saying how quickly she's begun to work like the past 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, it's like I don't know. It's weird, but I'm noticing that as I get older, people like my friends are leaving less and less, or for lesser amount of times. Like, because you used to leave for like a month at a time.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
And now
it's already happening. Now
like a week.
I only left for 9 days this time, and it's probably gonna be shorter next year.
How was your vacation?
It was good. It was good. It was a little weird because my dad was in the hospital. He's okay though.
That's good.
But we literally spent Christmas in the hospital, so we didn't like exchange gifts until a few days afterwards.
Did you make like a turkey dinner at like the bedside?
No, thought about it.
Did they have a turkey dinner there?
I'm sure he had something, and I'm sure it was just delicious.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like NASA slop or something. Yeah. Gross. So I asked you to bring a movie tonight.
Yep.
Originally,
I brought a movie that
I forgot to mention that the movie that you were going to bring was how long?
Well, I didn't know until I was driving down here. I was like, let me look at the back of this thing. And I won't say what language, but I had to do a translation. The DVD is not in English.
Oh, God.
So I think this means time. And yeah, it was 3 hours long, 180 minutes. So I said, let's just find something else.
I'm going to go on a limb and guess it was like Chinese or Japanese.
Well, I want to do it in the future maybe, so someone will surprise you.
We won't bring it up. But ultimately, you had to tell me what we were going to watch because we had to choose a different movie.
Yes.
And
so I thought we would watch the movie from 2016, I think. 20th.
Was it that long ago?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
20th Century Women, directed by Mike Mills.
Mike Mills. Yeah.
Did you see his previous film?
I did. I loved it. Ewan McGregor.
Beginners.
Beginners. Yes.
Yeah, I saw it on a whim and loved it. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, I'll go check this out too. And this movie blew me the fuck away. It instantly became this entered my top 10 of all time, probably.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Especially,
especially there's not very many dramas in my
what
top
I know
10.
of
It's
your,
mostly superhero
I was gonna
movies.
say what I know of your top 10 is mostly like these big epics, or and
In most
for
of my
you
top
to
10
say,
movies, somebody flies.
I'm guessing no one flies in this.
No.
I loved Beginners. That was one of those movies that just kind of came and went, but the people who saw it said, "Oh yeah, it was a really good movie." And
Yeah. Same with this.
what do you know what Mike Mills is known for? Because his name has been around for a long time. If you're a fan of the band Air,
Right.
there's a song called Mike Mills.
Yeah.
So I was always like, well, what the hell? And that's been around for ages.
Did he do some music videos maybe?
He must have, because
I feel like he's one of those people. He dabbles in a lot of different arts, and he's just annoyingly really good at everything. Maybe I'm wrong.
maybe that's what it is. But okay, without giving anything away, then what about this movie planted it in your top 10? Is it actually in your top 10, or is it something that is always on the cusp?
If it's not in there, it's on the cusp. I don't know. I've only seen it the one time, so I'm gonna watch it again tonight and see again how I feel. But it really left an emotional imprint on me for sure. Just the relationships and the writing and the way it uses film as a medium. It doesn't get weird, but it definitely.
It doesn't get weird, like
It doesn't get abstract, but it definitely uses the medium of film in an interesting way. There's some interesting editing and stuff going on.
Kind of like a Beginners, like what the dog has subtitles. Like occasionally, like Ewan McGregor's like talking to himself or something, and he looks at the dog, and the dog has subtitles.
Right.
Or just kind of escapes, like it clearly goes to another place.
Yeah.
For a moment, but okay. Well, I haven't seen the movie. I'm excited to see it. I feel like this didn't come out that long ago, because I remember watching the trailer here in this house when I've only lived here since July of last year.
Yeah, I think I want to say 2016 or
It must have been 2017 is my guess, but you could be right. Maybe it was like the end.
2016. There you go.
December 2016.
And it was nominated for a Best Original Screenplay, but did not win. And that was the only thing it was nominated for. Academy Awards.
Really interesting. What else is in your top 10 while we're on this?
Incredibles, Avengers, Dark Knight, Spider-Man, The Matrix.
Which Spider-Man?
Spider-Man 2. Specifically Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Empire Strikes Back, Casino Royale.
Okay.
Is
Is La La Land on there?
No. Inception? Probably Inception, yeah.
Okay.
No.
I'm trying to guess what your top 10 would be.
I've been meaning to rethink
I don't even know.
No, it's like 7 or so.
Yeah.
Oh, 20th Century Women might be in there. I'll have a better feeling after we watch it again.
Okay. What else? What else you been up to? What are you working on? Anything you can talk about, or are you?
I just finished working on a new show for Netflix. We just wrapped up our first season at the end of December.
Nice. So were you fully on the crew, like, for the whole
Yeah,
season?
yeah. This was only the second job that I've done where I was on the crew from the beginning to end. Yeah.
Nothing you could talk about?
I don't know how much on an official podcast like this, but it's on Netflix. It's a dark comedy. It'll be appearing in the summer, end of spring, beginning of summer. So that was fun to work on.
Excellent.
What are you working on?
I'm back on Mindhunter.
Cool.
For season 2.
Nice.
I think I talked about that before on an episode, but I don't know.
What do you do for that?
I just basically bend over and I'm just beating all day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Painting out light poles.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. You see this modern day car in the background? Get rid of it. How did it get into the show? We don't know. Just get rid of it. Yeah. I find like most of the stuff we do is like so invisible that by the end, like I said this to Mark, I think, like by the end of working on Homecoming, I watched the show and I was like, I have no idea what I did. Because even though there was like 100 shots to 200 shots per episode, everything's so invisible that
Well,
it's like, I mean, I guess that's a good sign because it's it's good visual effects that don't distract you, but at the same time, it's kind of depressing. Like after you spend that much time on something and you're just like,
it's not, you can't like show your family members like, oh, look what I did. Look at this. I made Gollum. Like you're not doing any of that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I would just be bitter.
Yeah.
And I would say that visual effects artists don't do anything. If I was an actor per se. Yeah.
Would you say that most of the little boutique effects houses in LA are doing that kind of effects rather than the big flashy stuff?
Probably. I don't know. I think that it must be extremely difficult to be a boutique-y kind of place like that. One of the companies we worked with on Homecoming, they recently, their CEO and CFO or whatever came out to come visit and say hello, and they were basically just on a mission to come into town and basically more or less steal good visual effects artists from other companies and like poach them and bring them back so that they'd have people, because you need to basically have all artists of all these different kinds of talents, and like because every job is so different, and that was my struggle, like hiring people for the first time.
Yeah.
Like I had to find people who could do certain things as great.
Sure.
And it's not easy to find somebody who knows everything. Like myself and the other artist on Mindhunter were very versed in like doing invisible stuff, but like if you asked us to do like CGI, we'd be like
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin. Like I don't know how to build a 3D model.
Yeah.
Never have. Hopefully never will, because I don't want to get stuck in that path. But it's so funny because I think when you say visual effects, I think people just assume, how many Spider-Man movies did you work on?
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea, and those people like baffle me. Do you ever watch like Ian Hubert's stuff?
Name sounds familiar.
He was like a former
TFN guy.
TFN guy, but I look at the stuff he does in like Blender, and it's just like absurd. It confuses me.
Sure.
I don't know how we got on this subject, but all right. Should we just watch this stupid thing?
Yeah, or we can keep watching your screensavers. There's some pretty cool stuff.
A pretty
on your
sweet
TV.
Apple screensavers. Yeah. Let's watch the movie.
Cool.
When you were born, I told you life was very big and unknown. There were animals and cities and music. You'd fall in love, have passions, have meaning. But now it's 1979 and nothing means anything. And I know you less every day.
I think maybe you guys can help me with Jamie. How do you be a good man? What does that even mean nowadays?
Don't you need a man to raise a man?
No, I don't think so. I think you're what's gonna work for him.
You just feel guilty because it's just me and you.
You don't know what I'm feeling. Men always feel like they have to fix things for women, or they're not doing anything. Just be there. Somehow that's hard for all of you.
Well, I'm not all men. Okay, I'm just me.
Well, yes and no.
I see the shapes.
Having a kid seems like the hardest thing. How much you love the kid, you're just pretty much screwed. You get to see him out in the world as a person. I never will.
What about you? It's always about the mother.
Okay, Jesus. Yeah.
So, sweetie, I don't know if we ever figure our lives out. And the people who help you, they might not be who you thought or wanted. They might just be the people who show up.
Jamie, I also want to say never have sex with just the vagina. You have to have sex with the whole woman.
That's slightly off topic.
Is there anything after the credits?
I don't think so. Nick Fury shows up.
Oh shit, Nick Fury. Well,
this movie ends with as time goes by, and is that cheating? Is it cheating to end a movie with that song? Because no matter what you put it with, it's gonna feel amazing. Like any image put to that song, you're like, oh yeah, this is great.
this is great. I feel that way about everything from that era of music. Like
Yeah.
anything
Like the
that's
old timey
like Glenn Miller
Yeah.
band or anything. I think maybe that's why I thought The Aviator was a masterpiece, because it was just constantly set to this old timey music.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it's a wrong choice. I'm just curious if that's.
Well, I mean, it was so her fitting with her character.
Sure, absolutely.
And yeah, it was interesting. Like, so what about the movie in particular was it that stood out to you? In terms of just long-lasting impression.
I think it was this story that I had never seen told before. These three women and a young boy. I loved that Annette Bening's character. You can't easily put her in a box or archetype. She was kind of a self-contradiction in a lot of ways, and she didn't react in ways that you expect to. The jumping around of timelines with the narration was really cool.
It was very loose, that's for sure. Like it free flowed in a way of like the storytelling was super easy. Honestly, Beginners was very much the same way.
Yeah.
How it just kind of free flowed in between all these different storylines and showed you images instead of, going to somewhere.
Yeah.
Some showing you like historical documents or Jimmy Carter's speech, or
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine writing a script in that way where stuff just happens and thing flows, but it all still feels like there's a theme going on and a feeling going on. It's got to be very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that seems like almost more of like an editorial decision, but
yeah,
it seems, I don't know, to me, it seems scripted when it comes from Mike Mills, because Beginners felt the same way. And I guess, I don't know, to me it feels scripted, but very well planned by someone who is certainly well read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone who knows like the era. And yeah, I don't know why it reminded me, it's gonna drive me nuts because I feel like there's another movie similar,
yeah,
in terms of a boy, like a young boy. This movie, about a young boy basically being raised by his mother, who's kind of contemporary, and she, it's like she's trying to raise her kid without necessarily planting ideas in his head. It seems like it's more like, okay, so that's how you're reacting to this. Like, how do you feel about that? But obviously she's a very dominant force.
Right. You're saying there's another movie out there kind of similar?
I feel like there's something else I've seen that maybe it was an Australian film where it was like the kid kind of rebels against the parents because the parents they're almost too free-loving and liberal and very don't want to put any pressure on the kid and want the kid to go a certain direction, but it's like at the same time it's like this movie I think struggles more with the balance of like, well, where's that line?
Yeah.
Like how much feminism does this kid need to be taught?
Right.
Like, and the mom like fights against the Greta Gerwig character who's like trying to plant this kid full of like late 70s feminism.
Yeah.
And the mom's like, well, how much is too much? Like, should we pump the brakes on that?
Right. And was that more just a reaction of something he said that hurt her, or did she actually feel that way? It's interesting.
Well, yeah, and it's almost at that point you kind of wonder, like, is it just because now she's no longer the one who she feels so disconnected from her son that she's not the one.
Right.
She's not the one doing, like, if it was coming from her, would she feel more okay with it?
Right.
But,
That's interesting.
So much of the movie, it was, you said before we put it on, you said it was kind of like a sad movie.
I don't think so. Did I say that?
Well, maybe. You said something that made me think that. But as I was watching it, it made sense because it's like, it kind of, the kid is kind of like the motivating factor for, like, seeing her conflict with the change in times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that struck me as, like, the sad thing that kind of everybody has to deal with at some point, is kind of like becoming disconnected from the world around you because you.
Oh, okay. And she's seeing that, like, through her son.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Like, I put up a casting call the other day.
Okay.
And in the last few years alone, like, it's been a few years since I've really done a casting call.
Mm-hmm.
And even then I noticed, like, almost all of the submissions had a note that said something to the extent of, here's my Instagram handle. Check out my Instagram. I'm also considered a what's the word for it? Influencer.
Huh.
And that was on a lot.
Really?
Of them. And that's something I hadn't seen even 2 or 3 years ago, and it's something that I feel like so disconnected from.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this weird, it's not even a millennial thing, it's like post-millennial.
Yeah, I'm still not even 100% sure what that means.
Right.
Influencer.
But it's such a weird concept to me, and I would imagine that since this movie is, like, set in 79, and you've got the punk movement going on, and Annette Bening's character is so much older, and
yeah, she gave birth so old, so it's just, yeah, she's really seeing the world change with him being so much younger than she is.
That but yeah, I don't know, that to me was, like, the thing that hit me the most is, like, the struggle of the change of times and just dealing with kind of getting old. But there's so many other little things that are planted in this movie.
Right. For you, was there a change in the feeling at all when, I think it's about halfway through the movie, where Annette Bening says in the narration that I'm going to die in 1999? Did that kind of change how you were watching things at all? Now that you know where she's going to go ultimately?
Well, I think the way, like, yeah, for sure, because I think the way the movie starts with Greta Gerwig's character going and getting a biopsy,
right?
It's like you kind of, your audience brain goes, okay, someone, either Greta Gerwig's cancer is going to come back,
right,
and she's going to die by the end of it, and it's going to be steel magnolias all over again,
right?
No, not a dry eye in the house, or they're going to flip it all on you, and because she's the oldest,
right,
the Annette Bening character will die, or they'll flip it all over again, and maybe it'll be the kid who dies,
right?
You know, because it's like all these, the movie kind of like follows these characters, and I mean, it really is kind of interesting. I think they did such a great job on hitting those timelines, though. But yeah, the only one you're hearing about the future from, at least halfway through the movie, is Annette Bening.
Yeah.
Later on, you hear each character narrate their own lives, except for the son, right?
He said he would get married and have a son after his mom died.
Oh, that's right. I honestly, I felt like we were experiencing the son's life more through the movie than we were the narration, whereas everyone else we were kind of learning about through the narrative and how they or telling us the future,
Right.
effectively.
Right.
And then nobody dies in the end.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
She says she dies. Yeah, she says she dies in 1999, so you know she's not going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very interesting thing to introduce halfway through a movie.
It's definitely a slice of life kind of movie.
Yeah.
That I would say is the most refreshing thing about it. I'd say, but it's just really well done.
Yeah. I didn't somehow I missed it the first time I saw it, but it feels like 90% of the shots in this movie are either Dolly pushing in or Dolly pulling out. And now I can't picture this movie without doing that.
It's composed a lot like Wes Anderson in a way, but it's not like done in a pretentious sort of way.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like slice of life, like showing characters in kind of like a medium wide, kind of existing in the world, but not like you said, it's really only pushing in and pulling out, and it's not really going side to side. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not doing it even like on the roads, like all the road shots of the kids skating down the, it's like the camera's always lined up with the center lines.
Yeah.
And it just kind of floats along. Yeah, I don't think I really noticed that, but it's very simple.
Yeah.
And the lighting is very natural.
Yeah, I like it all. Now I wonder if I felt a special connection to this movie because the main house where this all takes place exists in LA, and I've shot there a bunch of times.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
So they shot it in LA, even though it's based in Santa Barbara?
At least those house interiors. I don't know about those bedrooms, but at least that whole first floor and the exteriors are a house in LA. I've shot there a bunch of times, so I know like every little corner.
Had you shot there before you saw this movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you recognize it the moment you saw the movie?
Pretty almost instantly. Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's that house.
Yeah, that house. So I don't know. So I wonder if I felt like, oh yeah, I know their house. Maybe I felt like I
had
a connection already.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, in the 70s there was Annette Bening lived here with.
Yeah.
It could be. I wonder how much that affects general like movie viewing.
I don't know. I know for me, that is the biggest thing that I can suspend my disbelief is when I know where something is filmed. So the example I always give is like Bones. I did a lot of work on the TV show Bones, which is shot on the Fox lot. So when I watch an episode of Bones, I can still suspend belief that these are people and they are actually solving crimes and examining these dead bodies and everything. I just think it happens on the Fox lot.
On stage 2.
On stage, yeah.
Or whatever that stage is.
Everything else I can buy into, but not where they shot. So.
I don't think I ever experienced that up until Homecoming, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I kind of hate it because it removes you from the, like you said, the disbelief. Like you're tied to this location that you know is fake in a way, and it's also weird though because you feel like you could still get up and go there, but it's not. Like the Bones set doesn't exist anymore. It's just gone. Yeah. And like the Homecoming set doesn't exist anymore. It's just gone. Yeah. All of it, like. All right, well, that's a little off topic, but what is your? I felt like all the characters had so much of their own distinct personality. But which one did you relate to the most? Outside of the fact that there's obviously boys and girls and women, men.
I guess the kid, because I think I grew up and I remember doing this. I remember like growing up wanting to be a man who was like knowledgeable about things and
about where how female orgasms happen.
I mean, kind of. I mean, I'm not that I like remember. I don't remember like growing up and like wanting to be a feminist or anything, but I remember like growing up and wanting to be mindful of those kinds of things and wanting to know like, oh, I want to make sure I'm a complete person. So I guess I relate to him the most. I don't know. Do you?
I feel like a lot of our conversations were a lot like the one that the kid has with the punk guy. Was like, oh yeah, I totally fucked this one girl 3 times. She came like she had 3 orgasms. Yeah. He's like, well, how did How do you know? It's like all clitoral.
Yeah.
Because he had just read like this book on the female orgasm, and the other kid's like, well, shut up. It's like, how'd you make it happen? Did you use like finger stimulation?
How'd you stimulate her clitoris?
He's like, with my dick. It's like that. I mean, that conversation where I must have had like 45 times as kids growing up. I definitely I agree with you. I felt more like the kid, just kind of like confused and like kind of living in like this almost like a I don't even know what you'd call the era, but it, like, just kind of confused at like there's kind of, especially back then with like Reaganism coming about, and there's definitely like heightened masculinity, and like he's in a house with all these women, and kind of this hippy dippy dude who just fixes cars. But it's interesting because I feel like I related a lot to the Greta Gerwig character, but not like my actions do not match hers at all.
Okay. How so though?
Maybe just in terms of like what she likes, and like in terms of the art style, like she's doing the photography and like just trying to do more than just the generic, like what's out there, I guess. But like obviously like the kid, I feel more like the kid just in terms of like just being a lost soul, like kind of like stumbling through life, and you're just trying to figure shit out as it comes to you. But the Greta Gerwig character, obviously outside of the feminist view, but just in terms of being an independent like spirit and kind of like doing your own thing.
Yeah, you kind of had that streak in high school, right? And being a cop.
Dyeing my hair. I mean, you saw it when I gave myself a mohawk to like, because we were told we had to dress up like Matt and I were hired for a job. It was like basically PAs. I was a PA. I don't know what you were, a camera or?
I was a glorified PA.
Yeah, on a commercial for McGuire's like
car wax.
Was it car wax?
Yeah.
And I was pissed that we had to wear like dress shoes.
Fucking
like 14-hour day in dress shoes, lifting shit, moving shit around, and like I was like, fuck that, and I like gave myself a mohawk, sort of. Like
I had no idea that's why you did it.
You didn't know that's why I did it? I was like, fuck these guys.
Oh man, I totally forgot about that. I forgot about that commercial too.
I mean, that was like my whole, because you had already worked with them, but that was my introduction to them, and we met Monica and Katie and
Ashley.
Monica, rest in peace. But that was my little rebellion phase.
I didn't know that. Somehow I forgot about that.
You forgot about it. And it was funny because that was the first and only time I ever did that, and I was known as the Mohawk guy from then on out. And hilarious how that stuff works out. So a little bit. I thought Greta Gerwig was fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, she's always good.
I think I'd only ever seen her act in
Frances Ha.
I've never seen Frances Ha, but
one of the other ones.
What was the Jackie?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's barely even in that.
Yeah, she's great. I think this type of character, that's something that's very difficult to come off as authentic and not actory or trying too hard to be like weird and quirky, but she's very good at doing that.
Yeah, like very authentic, very
natural,
believable. I know exactly what you mean. And I was surprised she wasn't nominated, to be honest. But
I think Annette. No, I don't think Annette Bening was nominated for an Oscar. I think she was nominated for some other awards, maybe a Golden Globe. But I thought she was fantastic in this movie. Oh my god!
Was it the year of like Annette Bening and Warren Beatty just got bored at home because he directed a movie that nobody saw.
Yeah.
Maybe I forget what was his movie about. Was it about Mr. Aviator? Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes. I don't remember. Maybe.
I feel like it was, or it was about somebody. But it didn't look very well made.
Yeah, I don't think it
looked
was
like
very
really
well reviewed.
Bad cinematography, which is unfortunate because I always thought he was a good director.
Sure.
Did you ever see Reds?
No, but it's kind of been on that list that's in the back of my mind. Like, oh yeah, check that out one day.
Yeah, I remember it being well made, but it didn't really stand out. I don't think.
Saw Dick Tracy when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, didn't we all? But I thought she did fantastic. I can't remember what she's been in since American Beauty, really.
Well, she'll be in Captain Marvel. And I
Who won't be in any Marvel movie?
I worked on a promo with her a little while back, and I wanted to see if I could catch her as she left and be like, oh, I saw 20th Century Women and loved it, but it's always awkward going up to an actor, so I didn't really get a chance to.
Yeah.
Even if they would appreciate you saying that to them.
Especially somebody who's been around for so long that I feel like I just assume that all actors are bitter at some point, like that they just don't want to hear it because they've heard it so much that
maybe
it's probably nice to still hear.
Maybe there's the curve, like maybe when you're hot shit, you
Yeah.
don't want people coming up to you, but after you're kind of
You still want to be appreciated.
Yeah, maybe when you're in your sunset acting years, it's like, oh, I saw that amazing movie you were in that nobody saw. Like, oh, thanks. Maybe they like it more, you know?
You mean all those times that I walked up to actors at bars drunk out of my mind and be like, oh, you were great as that one side character in that one movie from 40 years ago that no one saw. They didn't appreciate it.
I loved it in Slipstream.
Oh my God. Someday we'll do Slipstream, there's another movie that came out recently called Slipstream.
Oh, yeah.
And the Slipstream that you're referring to, I don't think anybody saw it, but now it has a totally different name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you can only I found it just because it was in the dollar bin, like in the shitty like paper sleeve $1 DVDs. I finally found it again. I don't remember what it's called, but anyway. What else about this movie? Because I thought it was great. I would love to see it again.
I don't know. I feel like something. I mean, you know me. I tend to see as many movies as I can in the theater because I think the theater experience is really important. I feel like some of the more dream-like qualities of this film I kind of lost watching it in your living room at home, just when you're in a small theater, just a handful of people.
Are you saying I didn't get to fully experience this movie?
I don't think so.
I mean, I would agree with you, especially since we had to pause it halfway through for me to hand off a DVD to somebody. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think, and that's why I try to see any movie that I want to see on a big screen or something that I know I'm probably going to enjoy, and it's got to be an experience I want to see on a big screen. And
Sure. Which is funny because usually those experiences are the big movies, the big action and the loud and the action of the Blade Runner and stuff like that. But something like this, even though it's a tiny little family drama, I think there's still things that seeing it in a theater.
I'm finding more and more the opposite almost.
Yeah.
Like, I went and saw Vox Lux in the theater.
Oh yeah.
And or I feel like more and more I'm wanting to see movies like this that are a bit smaller, and because they seem like a dime a dozen on like Netflix.
Yeah.
Smaller movie. I mean, obviously not of this like quality, but the mid-range movies, I guess we could call them. Like the movies that are obviously this is like 10 to 20 million, I'm guessing budget.
Yeah.
Like it's not a small movie, but it's not a big movie by any stretch. But it's well made enough, and obviously if you've got a good craftsman putting it together, or craftswoman, the sound mix is going to be a whole lot better, and your experience just in general is always going to be better.
Yeah.
Like we watched, Orla and I watched Bird Box last night.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoyed it. But it didn't seem like. I think that the big Netflix problem is that it's not. I've yet to see something on Netflix or television in general that ever escaped the TV. Like even like say Game of Thrones, you know, it's like it's stuff that really immerses you. It's like it doesn't. It's hard to escape that that feel that you're still watching something small.
Yeah. No matter how big your TV is.
And you can't. It's weird, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the same thing can be said of any movie you see at a theater. Like if it's not a very big scope in terms of like, not the story, but if it's not a movie that removes you from where you're sitting, then I guess it's really no different than seeing it at home. But like in a movie, speaking of Inception, like that movie, like if you didn't hate it, took you to another place. And like you forget where you're at for a moment. So yeah, I fully agree. Yeah. So maybe we should stop listening to podcasts and go to the theaters more often.
Go to the theater. Well, so we've watched this now, and I didn't mention it before, but Mike Mills has said that this movie and this character is kind of very much inspired by his own mother.
I could see that.
So he's kind of telling her story in a way. Obviously, he took a lot of license with things. It's not meant to be a biopic or anything like that. But it's interesting knowing that now. Now I caught the last line of the movie. When he says he tries to explain to his son what his grandmother was like, and he says, "I think that's impossible." So it's interesting now that that's the last line of the movie. Now here is more or less a movie about the director's mom.
Someone trying. Yeah, I wonder if did he make it to explain it to his own children? If he hasn't.
Yeah, very interesting.
She reminds me a lot of my own grandmother.
Yeah.
Who I guess would really be about the same age, born about the same time, and
Right.
of a different era, and and seeing how she. We kind of had the like when I moved to LA, I moved in with her, unbeknownst to her. I moved I moved into her place while she was in Colorado, and she was like, "Well, are you gonna be gone by the time I get back?" I was like, "Well, maybe if I have a job," and then of course I didn't have a job yet, so she came back, and we kind of had this period of a few months where we were living together.
And did you get along?
Yeah. It was funny because she always kind of had a stick up her butt, and all my cousins kind of just assumed that she hated him, and which of course she didn't. I think she just didn't know how to connect to them because they grew up in the same town that she lived, and they just never came over. And then by the time I had left, I was the kid who came over and was like, "Oh, Grandma, just deal with it," and like the girls would come over and kind of built a relationship with her, and then I left. I did my duty.
That's interesting.
But she was always talking to me about like kind of old timey shit, kind of like the Annette Bening character is in this.
Yeah.
Different times, different ways, and she used to smoke, and she said the exact same thing to me that Annette Bening says. Like, well, back when I started smoking, it was considered fashionable. It wasn't something that was going to kill you.
That's funny.
My grandma said the same thing to me.
That's funny.
And now she's suffering from the bone weakness disease. I forget what it's called, but because of it, it's like so it's interesting in that sense. But it very well captured like all these different generations. I think in there. The Billy Crudup character is kind of like the hippy dippy dude.
Yeah,
was along for the ride, but he admits like he didn't necessarily feel like he belonged there in like the hippie movement in San Fran and
right.
Yeah, good movie, Matt.
Good. Glad you like it.
Good choice.
Thank you. Yeah, I love this movie.
Any parting thoughts before we let our audience go?
Interested to see what Mike Mills does next. He's ran out of
You think
parents
he'll
to make
do a
movies
trilogy?
about.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's done a movie about his gay father.
Yeah.
With beginners, which makes me wonder if he had a gay father or something that he was writing about.
I think so. I think this. Yeah, I think that was kind of based on his dad, and this is based on his mom. As far as I know.
Well, now I'd be very curious to see. Yeah, for sure. What's he gonna do next? Yeah. His dog, which was kind of in there already. All right, well, that's been another episode of The Hell With This.
Right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me, Chad.
Yeah, of course. How's your other podcast doing? The
Dungeons and Dragons. It's awesome.
Wagon.
We're very close to the end.
Yeah.
I'm very curious how things are all gonna
There's an
wrap
end?
up. There is. That's actually that's what I like about this podcast. Our podcast so much is that there's an end in sight because so all these other D&D ones they go on and on and on. You're like, oh, what's the point? Where's it all going? This is all coming to an end. 10 episodes.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing you point that out because that's so true.
Yeah.
Like, it could go on forever.
Yeah.
This campaign
you know when you watch a movie.
Years.
Yeah, you know when you sit down and watch a movie, you have a good, close enough idea of how long you're going to be sitting there.
It's going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours, not 3 hours,
not 3
like
hours
the other
usually.
movie we're going to bring.
So yeah, I hope all you guys are listening to that also. Dungeons and Dragon Wagon.
Dungeons and Dragon Wagon, yep. And, well, next time, bring your 3-hour movie and
we'll set aside some more time for that.
Right, a whole lot more time. All right.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.
It's Dragon Wagon.
Gamebox Monthly sends a new awesome indie tabletop game right to your door every month. There are multiple subscriptions to choose from, and you can personalize them to fit your style. Also, you're guaranteed to never get a title you already have, letting you focus on what matters most, having a great time with great people.
So visit GameboxMonthly.com and use the promo code DRAGON to get an exclusive discount just for The Hell With This listeners.
Once again, that's GameboxMonthly.com.
Rediscover social.